Hey there, Trekkers and Trekkies. So, today I was actually asked to show how I am going to be making a particular figure. It's the Traveler version of Wesley Crusher from Season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy. Now, I have already made the head. I'll show you that a little bit closer here in a minute. I had already made that, so, live and let live kind of thing. The body that I'm going to use is predominantly the regulator figure from the Sequest line that Playmates put out. So I'm not going to go through how to take these apart. Y'all can go watch. I've done it in other videos. I literally have a whole video dedicated to it, which I will link below, or I'll put one of the little thingies up in the corner over there that you can go and watch how to do the boil and pop method to take these apart. Other than that, let me real quick flip over, sort of let you get a look. It's going to be hard, of course. Let me position it. This camera never likes to really focus, but you can, especially on little tiny faces, you can kind of see the Wesley head that I sculpted. I used a regular Wesley head, and I sculpted the beard on, and then I took and added a little bit of hair, especially on top and up front, because he's got this little sort of Superman curly Q. And then here's the regulator figure. This is the regulator figure from Sequest, which obviously we're not going to be using the head at all. But the jacket and the hands and torso are all perfect. I'm probably going to be switching out the legs. We'll figure that out as we go. So I'm going to go take him apart. And when we come back in a second, I'll have the table laid out, and we'll start getting him put back together so that we can start sculpting his sweater. So I've taken Mr. Regulator here apart. We're going to get rid of his head, obviously, because we've got Mr. Crusher's head right here. And we're going to get rid of these legs. I've got the legs off of a Lex Luthor figure from the, what was that, 2006? 2005? Something like that. Superman Returns toy line. A couple of reasons. One, they actually look almost exactly like Wesley's pants from Prodigy. And two, it'll make him just a little bit taller. One thing, I've already been playing with this, checking things and putting it together, and Wesley's neck is a little bit thinner around than the one that was being used for that regulator figure. So I've taken some Christmas wire. It's that wire that you use to make the hooks for Christmas ornaments, or floral wire, something like that. And I've wrapped it around the neck to thicken it up, so that it will fit better on the hole here. Now, the other thing we're going to do, obviously Wesley didn't wear these gloves, but I do want to use the sleeves. So I've got some Ambassador Spock arms, and I'm going to take and cut up a little ways, because if you remember, Wesley had his sweater on. So I want to take and steal some of the sweater, this little piece here from Spock's arm, to glue on there, so it looks like a little bit of the sweater, well, I can talk, is sticking out at the bottom of the sleeve. So I'm going to set these guys over here. Now, the way that I do this when I'm cutting hands off is, you're not going to be able to see this, so you're going to have to trust me, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and as I go to start cutting, I'm going to put my hand over it, because what will happen is as I get through to the other side, the hand will go and shoot off into the distance. And I don't want to do that necessarily. So I will take and start cutting through. Well, this is a real good sharp box cutter type blade. Okay, and it's starting to cut through at the right angle. So, obviously, get an adult to help you with this if you are a kid watching this. Do not do this part on your own. I say that because this particular figure is actually going to a young man. His mom asked me to make this for him. And so that's what we are doing. There we go. Did you hear that pop? If I didn't have my hand and my finger there, boing, it would have been gone. All right. Let's start. Okay. Now that's all we need the knife for. So first thing we're going to do, glue the hands on, and actually, before I do that, I'm going to grab a piece of sandpaper here, and I'm just going to real quickly sand the end where that's cut. There we go. Do the same thing here. What that does is it gives the plastic what they call teeth. So that the glue has something to bond to. Sorry, this is the one part. I'm getting old and my glasses are not enough for me to be able to see. Okay, here we go. So sometimes I feel a little blind. Just get a few drops of glue. Make sure that the hand is lined up nicely with the elbow, like that. You get a few seconds to adjust that before the glue. Oh, dang it. Let's redo that. So what I was about to say is that the glue still there we go. That's a nice connection. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing here and here. Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right. Okay. There we go. Now, let me... Okay, I'm going to grab... Wait, no, that's not what I want. This is what I want. Right here. This is some black paint. Don't need the sandpaper anymore. And I am going to take... And because we're going to be obviously gluing everything together here in a few minutes, gluing the body together, it'll make it to where it's hard to get to the inside of the jacket, this liner back here, because the legs will be in the way. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a coat of black paint on the inside so that I don't have to come back to that. So I don't have to try and get around the legs, I should say, later on. That it's all just painted. And I'm not actually going to paint the very, very back part because I'm going to actually glue the legs in to where the back is attached. I'm going to be doing that for a couple of reasons. One is that the legs for the Lex Luthor are not a perfect fit. They're not an exact match. So I need to help them stay in place. The other thing is that I've already realized that when I go to sculpt the sweater on the front, so if we take a look, I'm going to want... kind of hold this in place. I'm going to want the sweater to come all the way down to here. So if the legs are able to swivel, they're going to break the vest, the sweater, I mean, which I don't want to do. So I want to prevent the legs from being able to swivel. So that's why we are going to glue... We're actually going to glue the butt in place. So that hopefully he can't be swiveled at the waist and end up getting out and causing a problem. Okay, I need to snip off the tip of this a little bit. There we go. I think that's part of the problem. I think I had a little bit of dried glue. Oh yeah, now it's coming out real good. Okay. All right. Now let me set that in there. And I'm going to have to just sit and hold this for a few minutes. I want to make sure that the glue gets a real good, strong bond in there. And the thing is that having the butt glued in there that way, it's not going to affect whether he's able to sit because the jacket is going to make it to where he can't sit. So it's okay. It's not going to hurt anything for him to be like that. So I'm going to actually let this sit for about 5 minutes just to make sure that the glue has a nice strong hold. But for you, that'll only be a second. Okay, that feels pretty secure. And the legs can still move. I'm not worried about them moving too much. So let us go ahead and let's get him ready to glue everything, glue the body back together. That arm doesn't want to sit very still. Take and put glue. Before I close that up, and there we go. And I'm going to have to hold that closed for a few minutes because the seam is trying to be a little difficult. But I'm going to let that dry. And when we come back, we'll start painting. Well, no, we'll start sculpting. Got to sculpt, and then we paint. All right. Okay, so now we are sculpting. First thing I need to do real quick, I've already actually done one side. I see I had a little crack left. They didn't come together real good. So I need to fill that crack in where the body didn't come together real good. I'm going to eventually get some glue to come out. Here we go. This is just regular old school glue. I'm going to make sure it's inside that gap real good. Then I'm going to take, and I've got some Sculpey. I'm going to roll out just a real small snake of Sculpey to use to fill in this gap. Just so it looks more complete, more flat, more finished. You know, I want it to look good. It might be a toy, but it can still look good. I'm going to use a brush to make it smooth. And then I will use my finger to get these pieces evened up. I'm going to need a little tiny amount on the inside right there. We're just going to get that a little bit wet. And let's fill that in. And when that dries, you'll never even know. So, that looks good. And if you're wondering why my hands got red stuff all over them, I've not been bleeding all over myself. I've been painting with red paint. So that is what has happened there. Now then, let me go ahead and we're going to get a little bit of glue on his shirt area. And I'm going to... And what this glue does is it helps to bond the Sculpey to the surface. So that it holds up better over time. And initially I'm just going to get a thin layer of this kind of put on to here. Because Sculpey sticks best to Sculpey. It is an air dry style of polymer clay. So you don't have to cook it in the oven because that would be bad for the figure. Pretty obviously. So, and the good thing is it dries pretty quick. This doesn't take too long. Till it's ready to be painted and whatever else you want to do to it. So again, I'm just using the brush to sort of push this down and make a real thin layer all across that torso. Okay. Now I'm going to take and put the arms down because he's going to need a little collar. And again, I'm going to get a little bit of glue. Get that on there. This time, I want a sculpting tool. This is a sculpting tool that's got a flat edge and it's soft silicone, so I can push at what I'm working on. Sculpting tools like this, they're not too terribly expensive. You can usually pick up a whole pack of them, of the sculpting tools, for about $10. Or at least you used to could. Hopefully it's not one of those things that's gotten terribly expensive lately. So yeah, the jacket that he's wearing is got a bit more of a collar on it. So I'm going to go ahead I think it's called like a box collar. So I'm just using that flat edge to push it down and blend it onto that plastic where I put the glue. so that as the clay dries and as the glue dries, you'll get a nice, good bond. And I think that just about does it for the collar. I like that. That looks pretty good. Let me look at the reference photo. Yeah, well, all that's really going to be left at this point is sculpting the vest, or the sweater. The cardigan. And so we'll get to that. Ooh, a little bit of clay got in his beard. In just a minute. I'm going to let this sit and dry for just a little while. Okay. So, at this point, everything, all that air dry clay is dry. While we were waiting for that to dry, I did a quick little test of some paint colors I mixed up for I put a little bit on the sleeve here, just trying to see how things might look. Now I've got my picture of Wesley from the episode pulled up on the screen so that I can be taking a look at it. And we're going to start from the bottom of the shirt. I'm going to take my little tool here and remove the excess first. And then I'm going to take, this is a little sculpting tool, another sculpting tool that I'm going to use to start shaping things. And I've got a damp brush to keep my air dry Sculpey nice and wet. Now I'm going to first take wrong tool, my little flat edge, and I'm going to make the wrinkle where the elastic makes the little pouch at the bottom. And then I'm going to take a tiny little worm of clay, and I'm going to position it right there. And I'm going to blend it in. So that it looks like a tiny little wrinkle in the fabric. Just like what happens in real life. Things look more realistic if they don't look perfect. Because people have wrinkles in their clothes. Because that's what happens sometimes. Now I'm going to take my shaper tool here, and I'm going to add the little elastic stripes at the bottom. And then I'm going to use that flat edge to push them back into place, and I'll need to use that point back up in here. Okay. Then we're going to jump up to the collar of his shirt. Let me... where he's got around the neck. I'll make sure and post the picture that I'm using in the corner below me. He's got this ribbing around his neck, and then there's these sort of V shapes coming down on the chest area. So I'm going to take and get a real thin sheet of clay. And doesn't need to be that big. Okay. Let me use my shaper tool here. To get this pressed into place. I need to remove just a little bit from right there. There we go. Okay. And the brush is always real useful for smoothing things out. Okay. And then I'm going to make, we're going to put that line right about here. Okay, now first, let me make that collar line right there, and then we're going to make a whole bunch of little lines right here. Then there's one line It comes down that way. And then we'll make the V's. Make one side. And then we'll make the other side. All right. That. Oh, there's a little. Okay. Keep seeing. Oh, that's part of the original shirt sticking through. Okay. Last thing is this sort of braided decoration that runs just above his waistline, which that is going to be a tough thing to do. Let me think what I'm going to do. I'm going to take, we're going to make some little snakes of clay. We're going to make, well, we'll start with just one long snake of clay. About like that. Yeah, I think that ought to do it. Now let's see, how wide is that area? It's about as wide as the head of this. So we're going to fold this in half. And then I'm going to carefully twist those two pieces together. Then we'll cut off right there. Get rid of that excess. And I'm going to real gently roll this so that the two pieces become one, but they keep that sort of decorative swirl to them. Alright, now I'm going to get him. We're going to make sure it's nice and wet in there. Okay. And it might actually be just a little bit big now. That's okay. Take a little bit off of each end. Okay, yeah, that's looking good. Now let me push it up under there. Then I'm going to gently press and look at that, it's keeping. Hopefully I'm staying on the screen good. Keeping that sort of braided shape. It's not perfectly screen accurate, but I think it'll be okay. What we'll do now, since we've got those lines, let's take our shaper and we'll make lines going sort of the other way. All right. Well, I think that is looking really good. So really the last thing that's left, we're going to have to definitely let this sit and dry for a while. And the last thing that'll be left is to paint. Which is going to be painting his shirt that sort of salmon orange color. The jacket is a real pretty rich chocolatey kind of color. And then doing a little bit of black paint touch up on the pants and on the inside of the jacket. That'll all be nice and easy. And then we'll be finished. So, gonna see you again in just a second when we start painting. Okay, so shortly after we stopped a moment ago, I realized that he also had pockets on the jacket. So I took little squares of craft foam. It's this stuff. You can get this at like the dollar store, Walmart, wherever. And I cut out some squares to make pockets. There's the one on his sleeve. And so, yeah, did that real quick. Not a big deal. So now I'm going to take and... I need a smaller brush. We're going to redo the liner of his jacket in black. Thankfully, don't have to try and get behind the legs because we did that beforehand. And everything I'm using is just plain acrylic paints. And really the only colors that I need, I did have to mix my colors because there's some specifically strange colors that we're going to be needing, because like I said, the jacket is sort of a chocolatey, dark chocolatey brown charcoal color, and the sweater is this sort of orange pinkish salmon color. And so what I'm going to do is, after I paint the sweater, after we paint everything, we're going to go over especially the sweater with a dark wash. That'll happen right at the very end. Which a dark wash is just taking it's black and brown paint that I have mixed with a little bit of water to make it really, really thin. And what that does is that it'll be real runny, and it'll run down into the details of the sweater and make it look a little better, make it look a little more detailed out. So that is where I am at. And probably just going to click over and speed paint the rest of this. So okay, so last thing, paint wise, because we'll still need to clear coat this after it all dries. Take my black wash. Well, that looks really thick. Let me get a little more water. Okay, here we go. All right. I'm going to let that run down into all the cracks. Then take a towel and real gentle like I like how that looks. All that, ooh, I squirted some water from black wash out. It's okay. What I'm going to do, I am going to grab the paint that I used, and I'm going to grab one of my dry brushes, and check this out. We're going to use the original color just to hit those highlights. And there we go. I think that's going to do it. So I'm going to let that sit overnight, let all of it dry real good. Then we will clear coat it, which you don't need to see me do a clear coat. A clear coat's clear coat. You literally can't see it. So, then it'll be ready. I'll take a few pictures, and I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you next time. Go make something. my videos and want to see more, please like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell icon. If you want to support me, you can find me on Patreon or go over to Zazzle for prints of my artwork, t-shirts, and other cool stuff. If you're still here, why? Do you want to jam out?